Hi guys and welcome to the channel. Today let's talk about Leiningen, which is a build tool for Clojure projects. So nowadays it's basically two main options. You can use Leiningen or you can use the Clojure CLI. And I personally recommend for beginners to stick with Leiningen for a long time, because learning Clojure, learning new language is already quite challenging task. And Leiningen is just an easy tool that will help you to create your projects, manage dependencies, build the project, and basically it will tick all the boxes that you need from a build tool. The other approach is to use the Clojure CLI, and once you advance in your Clojure journey, it's definitely worth time spending a bit of time learning and reading about Clojure CLI, or sometimes you will hear the term deps.edn, which is the same thing. There are two reasons. It's getting more popular nowadays, partially because it's supported directly by the Clojure core team, but also it has some neat features like dynamic library loading from the REPL without the need to restart the REPL itself, and the support for the native GitHub Git based dependencies and libraries. But again, as a beginner, I would pick Leiningen because it's a simple tool and you won't hit any blockers with it. So let's move to a bit of a history, and then we jump into the how to install and how to use Leiningen. So when Clojure was first released, I believe it was somewhere at 2007. There was no tooling, obviously, and developers had to reinvent themselves all the time how to use the Clojure jar. Basically, Clojure is just a Java jar that knows how to read the Clojure code and produce some Java code or bytecode. So there was no tooling support, and once Clojure was getting more and more attention and traction, the Leiningen project was created, and it was the goal of the Leiningen project was to simplify building the projects and managing the projects, basically. I went to the GitHub and I tried to find the first commit, and looks like it was November 1st of 2009, so roughly 2 years later from the initial Clojure release. Leiningen was getting traction really quickly. I joined Clojure community around 12 years ago, and I would say at that point Leiningen was kind of like the de facto standard in terms of managing the projects. Around the same time, there was a project called Boot, but it basically was main competitor to Leiningen. And frankly speaking, it was quite popular at some point. For me, I never had any issues with Leiningen, and I never experienced any problem. So I didn't see for myself the reason why I need to try Boot, and I actually never tried it. But for you, probably more important is that nowadays you don't have to think about that. I haven't seen any projects using Boot recently. The repo is not active, and I would safely say that the project is kind of like dead, in a dead state. All right, so what we actually need from a build tool. So a couple things. First of all, we want dependency management. It's hard to imagine right now that when you write your project, you just use the core library, right? We all need third-party libraries and dependencies. So we want a tool that can help us downloading those dependencies and make them available for us in the project to use. Second one is to build the project, and Leiningen will help us to create a jar file. So at that point, when we create the jar file, we don't actually need to know that it was written in Clojure anymore. We can just use some Java-based Docker image and put our jar file inside and just ship it as a Java application. The next thing is to run the tests. And then we have the idea that we can run the project as well. So this is less common because in practice you'll see people running the REPL first and then starting the application from the REPL. But still it's quite nice to have a command that will start your project locally in and you can use that. So you can think about something like npm run dev alternative. And at the end we have the running REPL, so there's like a line REPL command to start the nREPL server. Usually you don't have to do that manually because most of the editors or IDEs will actually do that for you. So you will start the REPL from your editor UI and you don't have to directly use Leiningen for that. So as I said, Leiningen covers all of that and it's doing it pretty well. There is just like a bunch of commands that you need to learn and use them in your everyday development process. And I'll cover that in the next section. Right, we move to the terminal, and to install Leiningen, there are two options. One is to use it from multiple package managers available. I'll share the link to the blog post and there'll be a link to the list of the package managers available. But like most common things are covered, like Homebrew, OnMac, etc. If you don't want to use package manager, the alternative is just use the script. It's also in the installation guide from Leiningen. For me personally, I have a video on the channel. I'm using the Mies tool to manage all my development dependencies, so I can install Leiningen with Mies plugin. And the requirement for Leiningen is obviously to have Java installed on your machine as well. And I'm doing that with Mies as well. So I can do Mies use -g Java using 21. So I have Java now. I can do Java minus version. That's available. And then Mies plugins. And then I'm using this plugin for Leiningen. I've added that earlier, obviously. So after I've done that, I can just use Mies use -g basically means to make that available globally in the system. -g Leiningen latest, and now I have Leiningen available. So moving to commands that we need. The first thing that you need to learn is how to create a project, and you can actually do that by running lane new. So lane new basically create a new application for you, and then we provide a template name. So there is app default template, something like that. So basically, if you want to create a service, you'll be happy to use the app template. If you want to create a Clojure library, there's a separate template for that, and also there's a separate template to create actually a Leiningen template, but it's more obviously advanced use case. You probably don't need it right now. And also it's worth noting that there are a bunch of third-party templates available. So for example, for the Luminous framework, I believe, and other things. I rarely use that, but if you want to create some kind of template for yourself, you can just use Leiningen for that as well. But again, I'm more about, like, if we're talking about templates, it's much easier to just create a sample project and then use that sample project to initiate your new repositories instead of doing the Leiningen template approach. But to create a new project, lane new app, and then we want a name for our project. So let's say lane tutorial, and if I run this, for you it will create a project, but for me I already created that before the starting of the recording. So once they're done, I can move inside that folder. Let's run lane clean first. So it will remove all the build artifacts that we created. So I just want to show you the like empty folder, similar to what you will get if you just run the creation of a new project. So let's lane clean, and then I can use the tree command to see the structure. Yeah, so we can ignore all that AMD and licenses file. Obviously, we have a README markdown file. That's the IntelliJ project definition. Don't care about that. The most important one is the project CLJ, and then we have the folder for SRC, our source code, and then we have a folder for our tests. All right, so now we opened our project in IntelliJ, and the main file that we're interested in is the project.clj. That's the entry point. That's where we define everything related to Leiningen. And it's basically a macro at the top level called dev project. You don't need to know what that's doing. Basically, inside there are a bunch of keywords, so you can see that as just closure map. So there are simple things like description, URL, license, etc. The most important one is the dependencies keyword, and inside, as you can see, there's a vector, and here we now have a single element. That's just our closure dependency itself. So if we want to add a third-party library here, we want to copy the similar structure artifact ID and add that as a new vector right here. So they are basically multiple sources where you can find your dependencies. So if that's a Java dependency, you'll probably find it in the Maven Central, the MVN repository website. If that's a pure closure dependency, most likely it will be available through the closures. If we follow the link here, that's the MVN repository. Usually it has the tab here for the Leiningen, and you can just copy this identifier and use that in the project. And here, the example for the closures. Again, this line is what you're interested in. So let's copy those two and add them into our project. Once we added dependencies, they won't actually automatically appear. We need to run some Leiningen command to trigger the downloading of those dependencies. The easy way is to do that is to actually call line deps, but when you do the line run or line tests, it will by default run the refresh of dependencies as well. So you can do that manually, or you can just run some Leiningen related command and it will as well update the dependencies. So we have some output that some dependencies were downloaded, and the other useful one is to call line deps and then provide the tree keyword at the end, and it will it will show us the dependency tree. In our case, it looks really nice and neat, but sometimes in Java we have a situation called dependency hell, and it can be two libraries want a same third library, but they rely on different versions, and once you combine those together, it's not quite working. So in this output from the deps tree, there'll be places when we can see that this particular library is pulled through this library and through that library, and we can add some manual exclusions if we want to fix the versions conflict. Obviously that's not for beginners, it's kind of advanced topic, but it's quite nice to know that there's an option to have an output like that from the tool. Right, so we already seen how we pull the dependencies manually, let's move into some other useful commands. And the next one in the list is to actually run the creation of the jar. So for that we have line uberjar command. If we run this, it will say that we created some jar files. If we go to our tree representation, we can see now that we have target and then the uberjar and then these two files. And basically the thing that you're interested in this one standalone jar, you can just copy that and use that in your Docker build step to produce the Docker image. So the next thing is to actually run the project. You can do that by doing lane run, and we can see the hello world output. It basically controlled here, so we have the main keyword, and you define the namespace, which will be considered as the main entry point. So it's lanetutorial.core, and this is the file. And in that file, it will look for main function named like this. That's by convention. So if we change something here and we rerun the command, we'll see the updated output. And that's how you can iterate. Next we have lane test to run our test suite. By default, there is one test that's failing. We can go to our project, open the test folder right here, go here, and we can see the test assertion that's failing. We can make it passing like this, and we can rerun the tests. Now we can see that everything is fine. And at the end, it's nice to know that we can speed up the lane run just a tiny bit. The problem is that when you use Leiningen and you use your project, there's actually two JVMs involved. One is used for the Leiningen itself, and the other is for your application. And it's kind of like nesting those two JVMs, and both should be started. And JVMs are known for kind of slow start. So if I do time lane run, let's see what we have. Almost 2 seconds, right? And I think it will be more or less consistent if I just run that. Yeah, you see the range, right? Now if I want to run lane trampoline run, it will skip one JVM start. And now we should see slightly faster startup time. It's not really noticeable, but it's good to know about that. And finally, let's talk quickly about plugins. A while ago, it was really useful to have those plugins available in Leiningen. It was the main way how you can add things like linter or formatter to your Clojure services. Nowadays, most of those tools are actually shipped as native binaries to make their feedback and feedback much faster due to popularity of things like Babashka and GrailVM. But before that, most of those things were done through Leiningen plugins. You can still write your own plugins if you want to extend or add some custom tasks to your Leiningen project. Here, for example, you can note that there is the plugins keyword, same format as dependencies, but you can specify the plugin version here. I'm using the popular CLJ formatter here as an example. Once you added that, you will have new commands available. So let's say we want to go here and we just run lane CLJ FMT check, and it will check our source files if they are properly formatted or not. So basically these additional commands are not part of the Leiningen itself. They are there because we added plugin that acts extension to our Leiningen tool. So definitely, if you add some plugin, just read the docs of the plugin itself to see what the CLI API that plugin provides. Right, for the conclusion, I would say for beginners, definitely stick with Leiningen, learn it and use it, how to build your projects. as you continue with your Clojure journey, spend a bit of time looking into deps.edn and Clojure CLI. So yeah, let me know what you think, what you use. Do you still prefer Leiningen, or you switch to deps.edn? And I hope that video was helpful, especially for Clojure beginners. There are links in the description for the blog post and some ways to support me. So please like, subscribe, comment. That really helps the channel and the video. And thanks a lot for watching. See you next time. Bye bye.